IPL is underway, and this after a rollicking test series that we saw in England. We're not even talking about the other sports like the Champions League or the phenomenal performance that Team India showed in Olympics as well as the Paralympics. Sports indeed is on top of mind. You're watching Mad About Markets. I'm Manglam, and hi Ritu.
Hi Manglam, I'd say sports is always on top of mind when we talk about India, right? And what a phenomenal growth India's sports industry has seen over the last decade. At almost 15%, the Indian sports industry is one of the fastest growing in the world, although on a smaller base. And this is considerably higher than the 5% growth the world is seeing in terms of the sports industry in the last 5 years.
So the Indian boys are running thrice as fast as the world, albeit on a small base. So let's get down to the numbers as a whole. The Indian sports market was, 6,400 crores in 2016, jumped all the way up to 9,100 crores, $1.5 billion. That's 42% CAGR over the 3 years that we saw this growth. The pandemic, of course, in 2020 hit all sectors, and there we saw a big 35% drop in the sports market, close to around that 5,900 crore mark. But just as humanity bounced back, come 2021, this industry is set to bounce back again all the way up to 8,800 crore rupees. And that's the sporting action that we've lined up for this year. Some of the optimistic estimates, Ritu, expect this market to actually grow above the pre-pandemic levels as well.
Absolutely. And in 2020, when you say the sports market is about 5,900 crores, right? Let's just explain to the viewers what we mean by that. Now, a large chunk of this, that is almost 60%, is just media spends alone. If you look at the on-ground ads, that also contributes almost 11% or so. The sponsorship, endorsements, all of that together makes up this 5,900 crore market size that we're talking about. Next year, you said about 8,800 crores. That is the size of the market that we're looking at. Now, the bulk of the growth will come in the on-ground ads. Again, this is a much smaller proportion, so the growth will be that much faster. Media spends, as always, is a significant chunk of what the size of the market is. Expected to grow by almost 15%, and about 12 to 14% growth is expected to come from endorsements.
All right, but it is a skewed market. You know, when you talk about sports in India, it's almost synonymous with cricket. You can actually intersperse the two because the magnitude of Indians' love for cricket is as incomprehensible as its feverish intensity. Cricket is religion in India. It dominates the Indian sports industry, and how? Of the 5,900 crore, 150 odd crores comes in for cricket, and then you talk about all the other sports. You have kabaddi, football, all the other sports, just till about 800 odd crores. So cricket is religion in India, and India is sport. In Indian sport, cricket is the one which can be interspersed.
So one has to question, right? And why and how did this English summer game suddenly become, a religion in India? So we spoke to cricket enthusiast and expert Vikram Sathaye, and this is what he said.
So why is cricket popular in India? I think there are two reasons. The first is anything that is aspirational over a period of time becomes popular. Cricket was aspirational because the British, who ruled us for 200 long years, played the game. The generals played it, the bureaucracy played it, the princely states heads played it, the Parsis played it. So it became aspirational for the common man. To become cool, it was to play the game of cricket. And if you played well, the Britishers also respected you. So it kind of became popular at that level. Interestingly, it was a class sport even in Britain, and the mass sport was football. The reverse has happened in India now. Football has become aspirational because the urban guys now say, hey, I don't watch this massy cricket. I am a fan of Chelsea, Man U and Arsenal. I am the cool dude. So football has become aspirational, and that's why now you have a lot of footballers in this country. The second most important reason is economics. 1971 victory, 1983 victory, and then the advent of the economic god Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin's journey and the Indian economic journey went into a stratosphere, and then when economics and aspiration come together, it is a winning combination. When every mother in this country starts thinking that now by playing cricket, my son or daughter could be a hero, then it's going to work. And I think that's the two reasons, is the reason why cricket is popular in India.
All right, so you have aspiration on one hand and economics on the other, and together that is what makes cricket a religion in India. But what's really commercialized the business of cricketing, that Manglam, is the Indian Premier League. In 2008, when the financial crisis had devastated the business world, the BCCI, that is a cricketing body in India, came up with the IPL game plan to turn cricketing into a profitable money minting machine. And how it's minted money, huh? The IPL itself accounts for nearly half of the entire sports market market in normal times and almost the entire revenue as of last year. And as of 2020, the IPL industry was valued at 45,800 crores. That's a near 2 times jump from its value about 5 years ago.
46,000 crore rupees. That's valuing it at almost 10 times sales, more than what a lot of these listed companies trade at, Ritu. So let's get chatting about the business of sports in India. We have with us Vineet Karnik, who's the head of entertainment, sports and live events at Group M. And also joining us is Abhishek Ganguly, the MD of PUMA India. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining in. Coming to you, Vineet, first. How has the sports industry evolved over the past few years, cricket and other sports included?
The growth of sports as an industry has been phenomenal over the years, and the whole growth story in India from a sports perspective actually began in the year 2008 with IPL coming in our country. So from 2008 till about 2019, the Indian sports industry overall was growing at a healthy percentage of about 12 to 13%, in some cases 14%. Now this is the overall percentage from a sport industry perspective. However, if you look at non-cricket sports, because of the low base in the non-cricket sports, those sports were actually growing at a very healthy 15 to 17% in some cases over the last 5 to 7 years.
We've collected all the points that you've made, Vineet, and we'll put all of them together. And what do we have? We have a huge sports industry opportunity which is only expected to grow bigger in size. The growth of the Indian sports industry has also created massive opportunities for other businesses to grow. Picture this, Ritu. You know, we have the cumulative sales of sportswear in India that have grown to over 9,000 crores. That's almost $1.2 billion. That's the combined retail sales of the biggest players, the likes of Puma, Adidas, Nike, all of them clocking this kind of sales with a long tail, of course. This industry also grew in the year of the pandemic when the sports industry itself fell by about 35%. And a third of the sales out here came in from the digital channel. A lot of us shopped online during the pandemic year. The other growth opportunity that lies in the official merchandise market for all the sports heads, the team jerseys, the caps, the bobbleheads, all of them together account for just around 100 crore in terms of retail sales. There is a lot of latent demand for this, and this industry is growing over 50%. And now, with a new jersey partner, fan merchandise options and digital sales, this industry is likely to grow much faster. So what's the opportunity here? We spoke with Harsh Lal of Soul Store, who's an official merchandiser for a handful of IPL teams, and this is what he had to say.
So the sports merchandise industry globally was valued at about $30 billion in 2020. In comparison, the Indian sports merchandise industry was only $500 million. That's less than 2% of the global total. Now, while we are expected to grow at about 10% year on year, we need to be cautiously optimistic. The biggest gap here is that our foreign counterparts enjoy a cult following that they've built over generations and generations, whereas most of the Indian sports leagues that we see today are barely 5 or 10 years old. So if we truly want to succeed and hit our potential, there has to be a much longer term commitment in terms of money and effort to truly grow this. If brands and sports franchisees look at this from a shorter term point of view to simply cash in on the hype, I don't think we'll really hit the potential that we have and build true value for our fans.
All right, a lot of time and effort needed to truly grow this from here. But Abhishek of Puma India is also with us. Abhishek, what sort of growth have you seen in the athletic wear category and, the industry in 2020 and 2021 so far?
Well, we are seeing a tremendous growth in business. The recovery actually started in the last quarter of 2020 when we actually grew about 10% over the last year, which was pre-pandemic in 2019. And this year, there has been tremendous growth, actually. We are at this stage doubling our business over 2020. So we are seeing enormous growth. And I think it's also the category which is growing, not just us, but the overall sportswear category is growing at a great pace at this stage.
Abhishek, you said sales have almost doubled this year. How did that happen despite the pandemic?
Well, the growth is actually coming across channels in multiple categories, subcategories within our business. I think I can think of 2-3 clear reasons One is that people are really investing more on anything around health and wellness. So sportswear gets a great tailwind because of that. I'll give you some data points that like people are searching on Google, running related keywords. Searches on Google have doubled in this year versus 2019, for example. Similarly, consumption of fitness-related content on YouTube has also almost doubled from pre-pandemic levels. So overall, people are investing on health and fitness. The second thing is the casualization that is happening around outfits. Today, people are wearing more relaxed wear, and sportswear gaining traction because of that. So people are not buying as much formal clothing and outfits. So that's gaining. So people are working from home, and that is leading to a lot of consumption around athletic leisure.
Let's bring in some more perspective into this, because merchandise is just one part of it, right? There are several other ancillary industries that have benefited thanks to the growth of sports, and one such industry is the online gaming and esports market that grew despite the pandemic, and in 2020 saw almost a 400% growth. Another market or industry that has benefited is the fantasy gaming market, which is expected to more than double from its current size, which is about 2,400 crores, to almost 5,430 crores by FY25. And this is the kind of growth trajectory that we're speaking of. Now take, for example, Dream 11. Now that has been investing in many properties around the world, and the icing on the cake for them was the title rights that they won at IPL 2020. Now esports and mobile gaming platform MPL Sports, they've signed up as a kit sponsor for the Indian cricket team. New age businesses, your likes of Cred, Unacademy, they're also associating themselves with the IPL. So with the growth of the sports industry in India, several other up-and-coming businesses are also benefiting.
They are, and who's benefiting the most? It's the athletes themselves, because athlete endorsement, that grew over 5% in 2020, and this is against the run of play in a year which was ravaged by the pandemic. Remember, we told you that the sports industry itself fell by 35% in 2020. Out there, we did see the athlete endorsements rise by 5%. Here too, cricketers, they were the ones who shared the roost. In fact, the biggest share of the pie coming in from them. 92% of the athlete endorsements actually went up to cricketers. That's not all. There was also a significant step jump that we saw in the level of social media influencer activity among popular athletes. Such deals actually contributed to 6% of total athlete endorsement values in 2020. So you look at this, you marry official merchandise with athlete endorsement, and you get a match made in consumer heaven. Not just this, but think about Air Jordans. That's the biggest of them all, right? But for us, we do have King Kohli. His 1/8 brand clocked sales of over 200 crores in 2020, which was ravaged by the pandemic, and is projected to grow 25% in this year. 250 crores in 2021 for brand Kohli. What say?
Mangalam, if you think about it, we've been talking about the business of sports, but we spent our entire time discussing Kohli and cricket and IPL and whatnot. So the bigger question that we've got to ask is this: is time ripe for India to be a truly sport-loving economy and not just a cricket-loving economy? So let's discuss that, because we think, the time is actually right now, and the internet has a huge role to play. Now, it is because of the internet that everyone has access to newer sports across the world. What the internet has also cultivated is heroes. Now, we saw that in the case of Mirabai Chanu and Neeraj Chopra. The internet has also allowed trainers and athletes alike to learn newer training techniques. It has also allowed access to global content and order the best equipment that they want from around the world. From a fan's point of view as well, the internet has made it easier for them to be closer to the game, either through communities or being able to buy both tickets and merchandise online. And that's not all. Corporate world has also increased its investments in sports as a part of their CSR activity, and that's only growing. I mean, think Reliance, think the Jindals, think about Goenkas, and the list goes on.
I take all your points, Ritu. I take all all of them completely. But tell you what, 9 out of 10 rupees in the Indian sports market belongs to cricket. Both of us are discussing cricket because of the share of pie it has in the economy. We're both actually wearing cricket jerseys as well. So in cricket, there is a saying that goes, form is temporary, class is permanent. Chances are it's true for the sport itself. Yes, there is momentary affection every once in a while towards javelin throw, weightlifting, sometimes even chess and football every once in a while. It is cricket that is forever. There's also serious lack of infrastructure for all the other sports to grow further. The brands are just not interested in much beyond cricket. I told you about athlete endorsements, right? Out of 377 social media or overall media endorsements that took place in 2020, 275 of them went for cricketers. Yes, it's true that a lot of sports were gaining some traction, but the pandemic derailed that momentum as well. So now they're back to square one. They have to start over again. So the bottom line, Ritu, here is that there is a fair amount of mind space, share of online trends and web space that these guys get. But cricket definitely, owns a significant chunk of the money.
Well, let's take a step back from that and try and discuss, with the incremental growth that we're seeing, because of the internet, what role is that going to play, in terms of growth for sports? Vineet, that question for you.
So just to give you a quick numbers from the growth of the streaming platforms, I think it's been phenomenal. Okay, we all saw the excitement in the streaming bids when it happened in 2017 for the Indian Premier League. Now from that standpoint till today, and I'm talking about pre-pandemic, say 2019, right? It has actually doubled, or in some cases more than doubled. So I have no reasons to believe that we will definitely cross ADEX of almost about 1,000+ crores only from a sports standpoint. When I'm saying ADEX, I'm saying digital ADEX. Now, digital ADEX crossing 1,000 crore mark itself is a very significant jump, because that was something which never existed maybe 3 years back in our country.
1,000 crores in terms of digital ADEX, most of them being driven by cricket. So that brings us back to the larger question, the bigger question. Is the time ripe for India to be a truly sport-loving nation? What are your thoughts, Abhishek?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, we all saw what happened at Tokyo with us winning, 7 medals, Paralympics where we won 20 medals. And that's overall, what a Neeraj Chopra today is doing to the entire nation. It's, winning gold in track and field is something that had never happened. Winning Olympics, winning in hockey, again, a medal in hockey, getting so close, the women's hockey team got so close. So overall, I think this is definitely generating interest. I think what's very important is that overall our approach to sports will build our sports character and culture around sports.
All right, we take both your points, Abhishek as well as Vineet. Thank you so much for joining in and telling us that maybe India will truly become a sports economy. With that, we take a short break. On the other side, there's a lot more lined up for you. We'll tell you what you may have missed this week and also about what's late. Welcome back. You're watching us on Mad About Markets. Enough about the sports industry for now. Let's take a look at what made news in the world of crypto. This is our Decrypto Corner. Do you remember the time we were talking about the ATM that dispensed Bitcoin digitally?
Yeah, I didn't understand the point of it, but well, yes, yeah.
That does not exist anymore, so you don't need to understand the point anyway, because government marchers in El Salvador took to the streets to protest the adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender and recent moves by the country's president to consolidate power. Thousands marched to the central plaza in the country's capital, brandishing signs declaring no to dictatorship and we were defrauded by Bitcoin. The demonstrations, which were largely peaceful, we did have one group that smashed windows and set fire to a Bitcoin ATM kiosk which was installed just last month.
All right, it's time now for our next segment, which we like to call In Case You Missed It. Now, let's see what made to our radar this week. 9 hours, 30 minutes and 1 second. That is how long Daniel Scaley, an Australian national, held an abdominal plank position to shatter the men's world record. The previous record was set by George Hood of USA in Feb of last year, where he was a 62-year-old at the time and clocked 8 hours, 15 minutes and 2 seconds. Mangalam, what is your personal best?
9 hours, 45 minutes and 30 seconds.
Impressive.
That's not a plank, that's my sleeping record. But that's me making history while sleeping. But history has been made for space as well. 4 tourists on the SpaceX, comprising the first crew of amateur astronauts, they splashed down safely into the Atlantic after a 3-day circle around the Earth. This marked the most ambitious leap yet in space tourism. It was the first chartered passenger flight for Elon Musk's space community and the first time a rocket actually streaked toward the orbit with a crew that contained no professional astronauts. Passengers included a 38-year-old techie, we did have a childhood cancer survivor, a data engineer, and a community college educator.
Now, what's in a name, you'd ask, huh? Well, ask Joe Biden, the American president, who made a gaffe of sorts when he appeared to forget the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison's name during a virtual press conference recently to unveil a new security partnership that will include nuclear-powered submarines. This is what he said.
I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
The man from down under, that's what he said, huh? But let's talk about sports in the US, because the nation's soccer federation has announced that both their men and the women's teams will be offered the same contract, same pay. This comes after a 5-year-long wait. In 2016, 5 US women players filed a discrimination complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. 3 years later, in 2019, 28 members of the women's soccer team went ahead and filed a lawsuit against the Federation for gender discrimination and unequal pay. Now they get equal money and a lot of no discrimination.
Gender equality, right? That is actually what is lit. Cadbury and Ogilvy have turned gender stereotypes on their head by releasing a 2021 version of one of its most iconic ads ever. If you remember, the 1994 Dancing Cadbury Girl ad, a beautiful throwback that not only celebrates Indian sports, but also the simple joys of life.
Dancing Cadbury Girl, not a girl anymore, because it is a young cricketer, the girl cricketer who's shown hitting the winning run, and her friend, male friend, running towards the field, dancing with unrestrained glee, celebrating his friend's superb performance as the crowd cheers on. The same as 1994, but with a twist. The campaign is titled "Waqt Badla Hai, Zindagi Ka Swad Nahi." It's giving us a sweet, satisfying dose of nostalgic happiness with a twist that celebrates gender equality.
Cadbury's Dairy Milk.
With that, we wrap up on this edition of Mad About Markets.